All right, important series on the line here for Demu. This was the difference between qualifying or not qualifying. At this stage in the Elite Classic 2, at the very end, he needed a win here. After getting a win over Louis MT 2-1, he needed to beat Puppy Paw, another strong opponent, to stand a chance of making the playoffs. But it was definitely thin, because it wasn't just this series that needed to go right, it was the series of someone like Vortex that had to go wrong. Now, we are watching this from the future, right? So we already know the outcome is that Vortex won his series. But I think it's still very interesting to check in on Demu to see if he actually has the potential to take on someone like Puppy Paw and take them down cleanly. Because even though we know he can't make it into the playoffs for the Elite Classic 2, it's still going to be a higher ranking for him. Still going to be improved scoring on the ATR. And it's also going to be promising for upcoming tournaments for Benny Boy. Because I think a lot of us have been waiting for this. For Ben to make a comeback. For him to be able to actually shine through as a player again. You know, I was looking at this the other day, and I'm pretty sure the last time Demu won a tournament was back in Steel Series, right? The first few months of release for AoE4, which is a little bit rough. Like, I'm not saying that to do him dirty. I think Ben has the potential. He's shown it in the past, but he's just unfortunately not been able to like find it, at least in 1v1s, right? There was the Winter Team Championship, but of course that was a team format. For 1v1s, yeah, I'm double checking it. It was December the 19th, 2021, where he took a finals against Vortex 4-3. Has been pretty consistent on seeing a lot of placements around, like, I'd say 12th to 8th, but I'm still waiting for the Ben to return that can make it into like the top 4, top 6. So, interesting matchup to open here, by the way. Because if Demu was to keep his fate in his own hands, this is one way to start. Delhi versus Japanese, on paper, is a hard counter. Japanese is about 70% favored in this matchup. I think it's even higher in competitive formats right now. Unfortunately, there's not a website that compiles that data, so I'm going off of the rough games that I've gauged. This is brutal. Like, Japan has so much flexibility here. Whether it's a fast castle or prolonged feudal, they have access to the answers to shut Delhi down. But if there was one player that I would trust to take down the Japanese right now, this is the guy. This is the only person I've seen solve Japan as Delhi in this entire tournament, and also the weeks running up to it. So we could have a very interesting opening series on our hands. Hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler for anyone. Like, I think, like, I'm just being real that we're doing a recap here. We know the outcome of the other series, and because the reason I mentioned the Vortex series, because we're not going to be casting that one, not the one that like really mattered, because we already saw that outcome. But this is interesting. Puppy Paw, looking at his spawn, playing on a map like Lipany as well, you get a lot of berries. So there's a lot of benefit if you're ever able to reach out into your base. And it's kind of interesting because, like, compared to Dry Arabia, you think maybe this would be better for the Delhi, but you have to remember that the Japanese, if they ever get on the map, their gathering rate on berries exceeds the Delhi by quite a bit. When you get level 2 wheelbarrow, so Tawala into Takazaiku, you get a 50% increased gathering rate, which completely annihilates the Delhi's increased rate. All right, so Tower of Victory going up. Forge. Ooh. Puppy Paw does what Anatan does. I love this. This is a really good opening. I'm a big fan of this. You can't just fast castle with Naked. Fast castle Naked is bad, especially if you know your opponent has gone Tower of Victory. So you need to be present in the Feudal Age, and this build gives you access to a quick Daimyo level up, which allows you to play into Bannerman Auras. Bannerman Auras are how you will beat the Delhi. Because of the melee tech advantage, you have an extra level, right, in melee tech. On top of the Bannerman Aura, adding in on average 1 to 1.5 damage for most units at this stage in the game, it puts you ahead, drastically ahead of what the Delhi can do. And you also have to remember now, with the early Daimyo and the Kura Storehouse, the longer this feudal goes on, it's very weird to say, but the better it actually gets for the Japanese. Because they're going to fill out on farms. Those farms are going to have a better gathering rate. Then you're eventually going to try to crawl into a level 2 Daimyo. That's when things get wild. So for Demu, and he'll understand this very well in this matchup, his goal is to thread the needle, to flirt the line between too long in feudal and too soon out of, right? And it's been a weird line that actually, like, even the best in the game have failed at time and time again. Demu's the only one I've seen consistently find that line. See if he can do it against one of Canadia's best. More villagers across on the stone. Is this going to be a 2TC build from... Dude, this is a 2TC build. Is he going to do 2TC fast castle? And if so, where does the TC go? Do you use it to secure the berries on the forward and then wall the short? Yeah, dude. We've read it. That's exactly what he's going for. So the villager might be able to block this out. Unfortunately, Demu. Oh, no. He stepped to the side. Okay, this is sick. I actually really like this build from Puppy Paw. It makes a lot of sense for his positioning here because now you have this strong defense to stop a raid through this side. You can short wall between the two tree lines, and then you can even wall here on the side of your gold. Maybe even just slap one down here, right? It's not too far of a reach afterwards. So you're pretty secure in this position. And Demu, he's going to go for that standard Ghazi opening, but this is tough, man. Like, I've seen Demu win against the Japanese 1 TC builds, where they go for the Daimyo. I haven't yet to see him play against a 2 TC Japanese player. And what's interesting to me is what the 2 TC Japanese player can do. With food, but also a lot more wood access now, we could be looking at eventually even archers being added in by the Japanese. For now, it is going to be a stable opening. A little bit surprising he wants to try and match the pace of the Ghazi this early on. But at the same time, if you're going spears, you're going to be a step behind, right? Like, naturally, Delhi's flow is to go Ghazi into archers. By going for horsemen, you now force them to go for racks. And then you go for racks. Galliano didn't do 2 TC. He done the 1 TC, right? Or did I miss? Oh, that might have been a separate series. Anatime typically doesn't do the 2 TC though, right? Like, he tends to lean more into the Daimyo. That's why I like this a lot more. Like, this is pretty cool because now Demu, he's gonna have to be more all-in-y. And if you think about it, there's one thing that Delhi kind of suck at is being all-in-y. I think like if you think about every game we watch Delhi lose, it's the all-in games, right? Like, I still remember, for example, Kasva's game in the qualifier very vividly. We saw 1 or 2 of those type of all-in games from the Delhi actually in the main event already, and they both backfired. You have to play the map, play Sacred Sites, and take time. But because of this early TC timing, Sanctity only just unlocked. If you now go capture the Sacred Sites, you're not going to get a win condition until 19 minutes. Think about the villager advantage that deep in the future. That's going to be, what, 30-plus villagers in favor of Puppy Paw. That's crazy. Horseman, a little bit ambitious here. I'd love to see Steeled Arrow out of Puppy Paw with the way he's playing this. Like, he's relying on the TC a lot. And Undermesh is already being prioritized. Demu did go for the double Blacksmith opener, which I love. It's so effective here. Actually, I think it was Blacksmith Stables, then Blacksmiths afterwards, if I'm not mistaken. Which makes a lot of sense. Like, you double Blacksmith when you see your opponent does this 2 TC build, because you need the extra tech to get the dive in. Ghazi getting down for a Horseman. Interesting. So Puppy Paw, he's relying heavily on the TC and treating the Horseman as just a buffer to keep the Ghazi away. I love it when Gully's like, no, the dives are great. He can just heal the Ghazis back up. And the Ghazi dies. Oops. The question now is, what? Puppy Paw is going to raw try to out-spam him on Cav. And that's crazy because Demu is expecting a Rax transition into Spears. He's like, okay, this is just wild. And it makes sense. Demu's like, oh, I'm not going to be tricked by that crafty little puppy, that little chihuahua doggy. I'm not going to fall for that. No. I know what he's going to do. Of course he's going to be going into Rax because, as I know, Japanese, they love that Ona Bigisha Horseman comp because they can attack and defend. Instead, he's going to go for extra Horsemen and add in archery ranges as well. I love this build so much, man. You can't go Rax here because double Horseman spam is too expensive on food. If you then add in Rax, you're going to be short. But by going for archery ranges instead, what is the one thing both of his TC secure? Wood. And a lot of it. This is a really cool build, man. Puppy Paw has been doing a decent amount of Yumi spam at the moment. I've got to say it's really powerful. Now the issue is, like, Demu, if he ever backs away, if he ever lets up on the pressure, Puppy Paw can, after scaling a bit of army, sneak into Castle Age, and Yumi Castle Age is no joke. Like, Vet Yumi actually slapped pretty hard. Guys are being pushed back in the meantime, so Horseman will exchange out. Remember, Puppy Paw has been gathering some stones, so we're heading eventually into a Daimyo effect here as well. Daimyo, could be good for the Yumi, but it also can be incredible for mass horsemen. The Uma Bannerman effect at this stage, you get those +2 melee levels in. All of a sudden, you're adding in an extra 1.5 damage, which means you're hitting harder than Ghazi. Nice, taking him so long to circle the base as well. So the other thing I like about this TC, close enough to the primary that you have to run all the way around the base. And it's annoying because if you want to harass the excess food, this is the area. But if you want to harass the gold, it's on the opposite end of the base. Makes it very difficult for Demu to just shift back and forth between the two. Villager's going to get chipped. Poppy Pool has got a 12 eco lead right now, though. And I love that he's sending horsemen across the map. You're playing against Delhi, right? They're going to have to come out into pocket resources. Meanwhile, you're just content staying at home. Yumi numbers going up. Daimyo. Upgrade is coming through. So moment of truth here on whether we're going to be getting the Uma Bannerman or the Yumi Bannerman. That's coming in. You need to be careful about the timing here. You need a lot more Yumi. Remember, the 20% increased attack speed is effective here. But the reason why I actually really like Yumi against Delhi Archers is Delhi Archers are going to overkill a lot. Yumi are incredibly squishy, but they're very cheap. That's the trade-off, right? They are worse versions of archers, but it means you get a lot more of them. It's kind of similar to when you watch people have way too many lombos and they overkill an archer, right? It's like, oh, this trade actually wasn't too bad for the Hex player because that guy's shooting too much in. Similar thing here. And Yumi Bannerman also now gap closes the statistics by default, right? Still a health advantage, but the damage has mostly been offset. Farms being hit up. Nice from Demu here, just trying to keep the additional farm spamming in here, keep the extra wood away from his opponent. The Poppy Paw, he's on his way home with the horsemen, so sacrificing some free farms here, but if he cleans up the archers on the backside, which he most definitely will, it's going to be worthwhile. This is way too many horsemen. I think Demu's overstepped here. Poppy Paw has to realize it as well, right? 14 horsemen, 12 Yumi could easily wipe this out. That's exactly what he's looking to do. Yumi, with the extra movement speed, will be able to close this. We'll be able to shut this down. Demu, only choice he's really got is to try and slow it down with the Ghazi. Instead, it's going to be a total surround with the horsemen. Archers going down. And notice the Ghazi don't even go after the archers because it's not worth it. Demu can't afford losses. Dude, this is such a sick build. This is what I was highlighting before about the Japanese is interesting as well. Like, we've seen so many iterations that counter what the Delhi do. And this is showing they still have that extra verse, that extra breadth to their builds, right? Like, this is a really cool build, and it's interesting because we haven't really seen much 2TC play from the Japanese recently. Maybe later in the game after you go Castle Age, but not at this point. Demu. Now trying to contest here, but the Yumi Bannerman numbers are scaling upwards. They're now neck and neck on archer count. Horseman Ghazi numbers are comparative, but like that's not a good position to be in. What that is saying to Demu is, in the next 3 or 4 minutes, I'm going to overtake you. I'm going to eclipse you. Yes, Demu does have 3 sacred sites. It's only just locked in, though, and they are being decapped. And sure, he is getting gold to trade away, but remember, over time, the trade rates get worse. As long as Poppy Paw is able to just have a little bit more food to work with, he's not going to run out here, right? And we are getting to a stage where this Daimyo is adding quite a lot of food into his economy. And there's a good question around whether you go Samurai here. I don't think so. I think you just keep spamming Yumi. You spam Yumi and Horseman non-stop. Eventually, you can get to a stage where you can kind of actually, weirdly enough, just run Yumi because there's just so many of them. Like, this is just Zerg on an earlier level. You know how everyone always targets the Onabagisha? And Onabagisha feels weird and feudal because sometimes it falls flat? The reason is the expenditure. Look at the difference here. You're spending 65 resources instead of spending 80 resources. And the resources you're expending are much more accessible at this stage than the golden food you'd spend on Onabagisha. Yumi, spoken and prodding. Horseman appeals. They've gone for the eco! Demu now hemorrhaging at home, and this is where you have to dive, you have to go, but the Ghazi count is not that good. I'm trying to find a way to be nicer about it. I didn't actually swear, so I guess that's good enough. I could have said that it's absolute... Because it really is. Ghazi, 8 Ghazi, diving this with mass archers. Yumi are just going to back up. TC likely to be forfeit here, but the horsemen are already on their way home. Oh no. New villagers are at least being sniped out. Ghazi count is low. The archers, they've overextended this time for the final time. The horsemen are home. Ooh-wee, and this is going to be the backstab he needed. Villagers are not going to be here in time to repair this, so it looks like the Rams are at least going to get rid of the town center. But the Horsemen will be able to clear this up. Demu is about to be very far behind on archer count here. 27 versus 41. The Yumi Bannerman has at least been sniped out. Horsemen are at least going to be reduced. But now this is going to be the breakout point. Remember, this is cannon fodder to be thrown away. Behind that, good chip damage done, right? The eco kills speak for themselves. Yumi Aura is going to be in once more. And Papi Paw, sure, he's lost access to the second TC, but he still has plenty of wood on his primary. Dude, this is crazy. Yo, is Fair around? Do we need to have a talk about Yumi? I know she has her opinion. I know a lot of people have their opinions. Like, I said it a few weeks ago. I think Yumi are under-leveraged. They are not as crap as people think. Like, maybe you could argue they should be 5 wood cheaper, but they are incredibly powerful. I hate when I just hear people write them off. They have a time and a place. You can't one-trick it. I mean, it's very difficult. It's possible if you're against, like, Mongol traders, it can work. But if you add in a layered comp like this, it's incredibly effective. I think the meta of Yumi is going to be exactly what you've seen from Papi Paw here. It's going to be 2 TC builds. 2 TC builds is the way. It's just so effective because it gives you the spam ability, right? Like, it just becomes cannon fodder. And the cool thing is you have to think of Yumi archers like you would HRE archers. It's not just for fighting. It's for raiding as well. This is a mini raider. And if you think about it, in the early game, it's much easier to raid with fast-moving archers than it is with fast-moving melee. Horseman sniping out the skulls again. Yumi count now up to 44. And the age up is not far away from Papi Paw. This is the timing he's looking for, right? You rush that age up, you Yorishiro drop an archery range, you upgrade the Yumi, and then you flood. And yes, they produce faster than normal archers. It's 13 seconds compared to the 15. Villagers being found out as well. This is actually adding up. Like, he's got textiles, but he's still losing this much. And the impressive part to me is actually the fact that Papi Paw, I don't know if I'd say, like, the approach was 100% clean in that, like, for example, he didn't prioritize the melee tech on the Horseman whatsoever. But the fact that the fights have still been going like this without that is incredible. Tech up on the way. This breaks the game. I'm not even exaggerating because, like, Demu is now going to mirror the timing, but I think he understands what's happened here. He's lost control of the state of the game. This is the worst case. You're meant to be teching up from an advantage, right? When your opponent's army is, like, not credible. But now you've got Mass Archer versus Mass Archer. And one of these guys can unlock his tech upgrade in 20 seconds. The other's going to take about 3 minutes. We have a problem. No doubt in my mind as well, it is going to be an archery range drop for that. Council learning almost complete for Demu, but really, what's this going to get you? At this point in the game, like, you need something that's immediate in the next 3 minutes. Realistically, that's one of the issues with Delhi, right? It's like nothing you do at the beginning of Castle Age gives you 3 minutes. You have to have an advantage getting there. There we go. Yorishiro drop, 13 seconds away. It's Yumi Ashigaru time. Oh, this series just got spicy. Mounted Samurai also falling up out the stables from earlier. These look scary. 8 damage each. And remember, he can still get the level 2 ranged upgrade. That's another thing that Demu can't match him on the pace towards, right? Like, look at it. It's going to take 4.5 minutes for ranged armor too. Oh, God. And remember, Yumi are faster than these archers. You can't get away from this. Oh, no. Why are you running? Where are you running? Villagers have to escape quick. Yumi, they're quicker than that as well. Remember, these villagers 1.29 compared to the 1.38. Nothing can run away from this. Demu, by the time the archers are upgraded, there's going to be none left. I mean, even Lancers at this stage, guys. 73 archers. Ooh, they're just almost one-hit a Lancer. Demu's losing so much this line formation chase down. He's got nowhere left to run. He has to turn and fight. And this should be the backbreaker. Start step away. Lancer's being targeted down. Ghazi not able to do enough here. Bannerman does flop dead on the ground, but it doesn't matter. He's got 30 seconds to wipe this army, and that's more than enough. Demu has to retreat again. And this is wave 1, baby. Yumi extra on the way. The next Bannerman's going to be running across the field. Mount Samurai are also on the way. So Demu, these Lancers are going to be outmatched here, outpaced. And now we're seeing the prep for the Samurai switch. Puppy Paw doesn't have that Bannerman anymore, reduces 7 damage, but even then, you're still taking quite the punishment here. Takes, what, 2 rounds of attacks to kill a Lancer? Not bad, especially for a unit that moves away quicker than standard archers. Puppy Paw, where are these Mount Samurai? Okay, they're on the way here now. He's got some guards on the flanks. He could actually just chase into eco and end the game right now. Instead, archers are going to back up. Remember, because they're quicker as well, it means the Bannerman gets back in the fight faster, especially when you start stepping back like this. Mount Samurai have now arrived, and Demu, this is the bad news. Because now, if you switch into crossbows to solve the Mount Samurai, you still got this issue here. 73 Yumi Ashigaru. And good question coming in. Does this Japanese army comp work against English? Yes, I've watched it work against English as well. Yumi Ashigaru, it's the same logic as why H-Yuri archers can win against English Lombos, depending on the map, of course. But if it's a more open map, like Cliffside or, say, Himiyama, you don't fight the Lombos, you fight their economy. I'm telling you, man, this is a raiding unit. It's interesting, like, Onobugisha, yes, they fight very well, but their big value is as a raiding unit. You just have to look at Yumi the same exact way. Double the military force. Demu, quite the pickle here. More farms have been added in, so Puppy Paw is not going to run out anytime soon. Judge comes in. Mount Samurai just trying to buy a little bit of time as they draw this back slightly, but the Yumi aura really is the problem here. It's 10 damage now. For some reason on the Yumi Bantam. Don't ask me why he gets more. 9 on the rest of the formation. These Lancers are not even getting a lick in. Oh my god. Demu, by some miracle, his eco hasn't been exposed on the flank yet, but I feel like it's just a matter of time at this stage. I mean, for Puppy Paw, it shows you how far ahead he is that he doesn't even have to raid that. He can just win the main fight. This game is over. Demu, even if Puppy Paw backs up now, it'll be to hunt the economy on the flanks. Instead, it's going to be a dive in the base and a dive into despair for Demu. 21 versus 82 military. Still 58 Yumi left over, and the Samurai haven't even arrived yet. Bannerman is at least gone, so this might be the one moment where you can take a semi-decent trade. Semi-decent might be being generous. Villagers being sacrificed is going to be the GG call. Demu, although the dominant force against the Japanese, it turns out that Puppy Paws is built a little bit different. Gets himself very early on to match point here. So let's update that score. Puppy Paw does indeed take game number 1. I don't know why. Wait, why did that put on without flip score? Whatever. Anyway, there we go. Game number 1 going the way. Wait, no. Lobby score, please. What? All right. Something's weird with the lobby score. Interesting. So the lobby score can't be flipped. Anyway, yeah. Puppy Paw now already on match point. Looking a little bit deeper into this draft, looking at what we've actually got ahead of us. I think Demu... Did he draft Holy Island? This draft kind of reeks of Holy Island. No, if it was, like, I feel like you'd save Japan for that, not pull the Chinese. So let me double check. No, it was Coastal Cliffs, Lipini, and Dry Arabia. Oh, wait, did I just do a stupid moment? I think I did. I think I just shoot game 2. Let me double check. I did. I shoot game 2, guys. I'm an idiot. Oops. All right, we go back for game 1. How did I do that? I could have sworn I clicked through them. Did he play? Oh. I think I know what happened. I don't know if this is last night. Maybe it was just now. Maybe Demu was playing a game off stream. But, like, he basically... There was a new solo rank game that appeared and pushed it down. So we accidentally clicked on that game. Whatever. It's a best of 3. We've still got another game to go. Let's hop into it. Let's pretend that was game 1. Yep. It's fine. That was game 1, guys. Whoop, whoop. All right. Let's So game one, the real game one, was on Coastal Cliffs. It's going to be Zhuji versus Chinese. I want to say Zhuji's better here with the Chuganu timing, right? Let's find out. All right, let's hop in the game. Let me make sure that score is correct. Okay, I guess we're doing it the other way around. Apologies for that, folks. So this was the real game one. Game two was the Delhi versus Japanese. We're going to actually see if Demu was able to take an early lead and get us to a game three, or if it's already going to be over at the end of this, because we've got Chinese versus Zhuji. This is a matchup that I actually think favors the Zhuji for timing here. Like, the goal is meant to be to force a Chuganu spam, right? And if you can force a Chuganu spam, Zhuji have a better ramp timing because of things like the Jiangnan Tower and also the Meditation Garden giving additional generation early on. What I think has maybe soured the water since we last saw this matchup regularly is we have to remember the Chinese did receive an interesting little buff not too long ago, where the Imperial Academy is now much more value, right? It allows you to get into the taxmen much cheaper. And interesting enough, now that I'm looking at the most recent patch, Zhuji versus Chinese, yeah, it's still holding true. 76% in favor of Zhuji. What could be interesting on this map, though, is Barbican placement. Like, for example, down here to secure the berries, the deer, or on the fort to secure the boar. One thing about Coastal Cliffs that I think has made China look like a decent mid-tier pick on this map has been the Barbican power, because of how much of the map it denies and also reveals to you. And remember, like, if this turns into eventual Chuganu spam on each side, you have a Barbican, the Zhuji don't. The reason why Zhuji is usually favored, right, is the fact that they're able to immediately get into Chuganu. You can't as the Chinese. Not just that ramp up I talked about, it's also timing of the fact you have to go into Song to then get your hands on the same unit. So we'll see which way Poppy Paw wants to go with this, how he wants to address this threat. Maybe like a fast castle build could be pretty interesting. I think China's pretty good at hitting that timing. If this is a Chuganu all-in, you could probably easily, I'd say, reach up for Clock Tower, get one Nest of Ease, and then ruin the entire plan for Demu. We'll find out. Step one has to be Imperial Academy, right? Did Puppy Ball go for the no IO build? He did. Okay, so we've been seeing this. I think Louis was the other player doing a lot of this, where you don't build a single Imperial official, and you rush a Feudal Age, and then you get the officials cheaper. Because remember, the Imperial Academy, it only costs 105 resources instead of 150. Now, you might be like, oh, that's really bad, though, KP, because for, like, 3 minutes or so, he's going to have missed out on 20% extra drop-off. That is true, but remember, not all of his eco is on one building, so it's a little bit deceptive there. On top of that, you've had an extra villager for 3 minutes, which is an extra, like, 150 resources almost. So I think it's actually a lot closer than it appears. Other side, Meditation Garden is coming in. Puppy Paw pulls the wolf. It's unfortunately not going to listen long enough here. So this will be going up. We've got berries, we've got the stone, we've got the wood. Stone isn't really that ideal for the Zhuji usually, because you don't really want to be rushing a second TC on this map, as you're really far out on that stone. But I think Demu's mindset is probably that this is going to be a TC rush on both sides. So bringing 3 villagers out here, setting up the Meditation Garden, then moving mining camp isn't too bad. The problem is, like, I think stone has been kind of underwhelming outside of water maps for Zhuji because of the passive trickle. Unless you want to outpost spam, which it might be a viable option here, but let's say you want this stone to rush a TC. You're only getting 25 extra a minute. It doesn't really save you much if you think about it, especially considering the walkout here. You're not going to, like, supervise, right? Like, it's kind of a weird one, I think. Like, this map overall, to me, I've never been a big fan of, like, Chinese or Zhuji because of the loose stone. Yeah, instead it's just going to be a pullback. So this is just for the passive stone, which I'm not a great fan of unless you're going hand cannon slits. But that already feels like a negative because in this matchup, you're not meant to be the defending player, right? Like, I think the reason why Zhuji is stomping on Chinese isn't because of what happens 30 or 40 minutes into a game. If you end up 40 minutes into this game, China's going to win. Like that, they are incredibly heavily favored. The income rivals you easily in food. On top of that, they have access to actually good units like hand cannoneers with pyrotechnics, while you're stuck on grenadiers. And Yuan Dynasty is just so easily reachable, right? So they have the movement speed to match you out. It's very one-sided at that stage. Not to mention the double defensive landmark just gives China more flexi to defend areas than the Zhuji have. So Scout moving in. Puppy curious to see what he's going to be up against here. I think I'm going to hit the speed up because I'm starting to get a weird feeling that this is actually just going to be a Castle Age rush on both sides, which is wild. Okay, Barbican being dropped. Is Demu legit just going castle? Okay, no. Archery ranges are being added in. So this is the moment I was waiting for. So he does get scouted out. He was drifting by. He did just about see it. This is now Demu on the clock. It's kind of interesting how delayed this was as well. I'm a little bit surprised it wasn't sooner. He floated over 400 food. Didn't rush into archers. For a moment, I thought he was trying to get Jiangnan Tower, which I don't think is necessarily worth it here. This is a little bit dicey of a timing. Barbican also has now kind of secured the wood line, so that's not going to be exposed. Doesn't secure the food, which is a bit surprising here. It is kind of weird, actually, that he chose to secure the wood. I guess he secures berries as well. There is, for some reason, one sheep here. The true reason Puppy Paw dropped the Barbican here. My sheep. Okay, Chiganu on the way. Okay, now this starts to explain it. He's going to short wall between the two tree lines. Maybe not even between the two tree lines. He's just doing a very small one here, which is a little bit surprising because the gold will be exposed. But if you think about it, he doesn't really need gold, right? He's not going to mass Chiganu on Chiganu. That's how you lose against Zhuji. Instead, it's going to be horsemen to contest this. Demu, he realizes what he's up against here. That horseman, I don't think he saw the outpost. Yes, he did. There we go. Second one goes in. So villagers are going to be forfeit here. That horseman is going to find his bang for buck. 2 Chiganu going down to kill 1 horseman is not a good trade for Demu. In fact, it's going to be 2.5. Dude, this is so bad. And the villagers as well. Both of them dead. Oh my god, this game might already be over. Demu's stuck on a 1-unit comp. And the horseman count is already too big. No steeled arrow either. He's not even supervising for it, right? He is, but it just doesn't matter. It doesn't feel like it's quick enough. Oh, dude. That's actually wild. Louis. Look, Puppy Paw. Sorry, this felt like a Louis Chinese build, though. Hence why I said it. Puppy Paw legit just waited until Demu made his move first. And then this is the power, right? If you're talking about transitions, China and Zhuji are some of the best in the game due to supervision on military buildings. Once Demu has made his choice, there's no switch. Right? Once he's built 2 archery ranges like this, what does he do now? Build 2 Raxes? That's 300 wood. The value that you get as a Zhuji at this stage isn't really in all your extra wood. It's in the power of your 1 building search. Oh man, dude, that's brutal. Puppy Paw is going to have to pull back temporarily. And it looks like we are now seeing a macro up towards Castle Age. But he did stop the outposts. And diving this base is not really feasible right now for Demu. It would cost him a lot. He doesn't have undermesh. So Garrison TC would do a lot of work. Puppy Paw now prepping the undermesh. Love this. What do you do with horsemen in the situation, right? You don't dive the main enemy army. You cut reinforcements. You keep this Chiganu mass small enough that it can't win. And what do you do if you're Demu in reaction to this? You're going to have to slow down. You're going to have to pull back. And if you have to pull back, that means Puppy Paw can either then just scale more horsemen in the interim, or he can go towards that Castle Age. It's all free. Oh, dude, he's got the perfect amount as well. 5 horsemen insta-kills the Chiganu when they reach them. This is brutal. So now Demu has to hold back and build up 12 Chiganu, if not more, before he comes out each time, right? This is so uncomfortable if you're Demu. It's not just that, it's also the gold workers that are now going to get harassed, so idle time there. Castle Age, almost ready to be triggered here. Puppy Paw, interestingly enough, is now adding in his own archers. Chiganu, to be specific. Dude, this is actually wild. I mean, Nestabees is slow, right? Chiganu can move much quicker across the map and just end this game. This is crazy. Just a reminder for people, this is a 70%, 75% favored to Chiganu matchup at the highest level of play. Even if I check the previous patch, Chiganu, when they were stronger versus China, that's interesting. 16 games played, they were at negative win rate, but in the most recent patch on the same amount of games, well, 13, a few less, it's 76.9% for Chiganu. Small sample group, but makes sense. Like, this Chiganu timing you're seeing was meant to be earlier, and if it was earlier, it would have been maybe a little bit more threatening, but they were both waiting for the other person to reveal their plan. Now, I think it's left Demu a little bit stuck in the mud. Clock tower, about to complete. And Chiganu, ready to come out. She needs a new village to be built here, so more being pumped. Supervision continues. This should be the upgrade coming through, and this means you only need like half the Chiganu to now win. Oh, this is about to be dirty. Rax also coming through, so Palace Guard to be layered in. Horsemen still keeping the reinforcements at bay. Notice he's not upgrading these at all. These are just here to idle this army so that you can take the main engagement. Poppable. The question now is, do we add in Lancers as well? Probably just Palace Guard is good enough, right? Like, Palace Guard, the issue of Lancers is that if you add in Lancers, your Chuganu can't move as quickly as Lancers. Palace Guard are more comparative in speed. So you're getting double the units to frontline for your Chuganu, right? If you take Lancers, you just have to wait around. You can never engage. So yeah, really smart transition here. Demu hasn't scouted into that base for a while, right? Like, he had to keep the scout back due to the fact that the horseman had to keep the scout with the Chiganu. 5 rams, though. Demu, this is make or break. This is usually why there's usually been dominating the Chinese right now, is this timing. Chiganu. We'll start to trade, though. Barbican is going to be garrisoned. Every arrow matters here. Palace Guard are starting to hit into the siege. A little bit overly ambitious there from Puppy Paw. That extension felt a bit weird. Villagers are going to shift away, so the Barbican is going to be forfeit here. Demu, is he doing enough here? Is he doing it quick enough? Because the Nester Bees have now been queued up. Okay, so this is big. 1 Nester Bees actually breaks the fight. 2 Nester Bees destroys the fight. Remember, this is a feudal age army. 70 health on each of these guys, and they do not move quick. Barbican's down, though. Horsemen still cutting more reinforcements here. And more to come. The Chuganu mass is locked at 36. Archer range is going to be targeted. Rax next on the hit list. Demu getting rid of all the infrastructure, but the Nester Bees cannot be stopped here. First one now coming out. This has to be where he backs up, right? Like, if you back up, what do you do with it? You haven't got a tech up on the way. Nester Bees are going to target the ram instead, so that's at least the upside for Demu. Remember that Siege did get buffed against rams because they have less health now. So these Nester Bees take out these units much quicker. Same with the Chuganu. Imperial Academy down to half HP, but it feels like a wasted effort at this stage. It's not what you really need to be addressing. Nester Bees, funnily enough, is still ignoring that Chuganu mass. It's going to turn onto them now. Demu will go for the staggered formation. So Imperial Academy looks like it should be going down here. So heavy hit to the landmarks, but Puppy Paw is still an entire age ahead, folks. Moving on the Nester Bees. Villagers to repair. Demu needs to target them down. Another shot's going to come out, and that should be enough to clean up the army. Yes, some eco lost, but remember, this is Song Dynasty. He can afford it, and now Demu. Because of that delay, the horsemen keeping him back, it's enough of a difference to allow Puppy Paw to turn the tide in his favor. Okay, this is the breakout, man. This is point of no return. Demu, he's back on the goal, but if you stop pumping Chuganu now, Palace Guard Chuganu are going to rush towards your base. This looks close to over. I'm struggling to see a way now that Demu gets away with an age up and doesn't look weak for it. Nester Bees Flurry is going to hit again, and that is it, folks. GG gets called, so Demu will not even be able to put up a fight to stay in the tournament, to make it to the playoffs. Unfortunately, while this series was going on, he was getting the unfortunate news that Vortex was not going to lose as well, which meant that he wasn't going to be able to break him off that 4th spot. But definitely a heartbreaker to not even have a layer control here. Puppy Paw looking dominant with the 2-0.